Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, it is an honor to present to the Human Rights Council my report on the 30 years of implementation of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action from the perspective of women and girls with disabilities. Allow me to begin by reflecting on what has been a truly and impactful and rewarding first years as mandate holder. In 2024 has been a year of tireless advocacy, working on amplifying the voices of persons with disabilities in key international discussions. I focus particularly on advocating for their inclusion in discussions around the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals. I dedicated my first report to the GA to highlight the barriers and challenges that persons with disabilities face to be included in processes of follow-up and reviewing of the agenda at the national and international levels. And I insist on having the rights and perspective mainstreamed during the Summit for the Future and its outcome documents. Yet, the 2024 Disability and Development Report shows a troubling reality. With 6 years left to achieve the SDGs, persons with disabilities are still being left behind. Progress has stalled and regressed for 14% of targets, and 30% shows insufficient advancement. The situation is even more dire for women and girls with disabilities, facing wider gaps and compounded discrimination. That is why my thematic work in 2025 is focused on their rights and distinct requirements. Excellencies, through the report I am presenting today, I seek to provide a critical analysis on how the Beijing Declaration and Platform have addressed the needs and rights of women and girls with disabilities. The Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action marked a historical step in advancing gender equality, yet the inclusion of women and girls with disabilities in policies related to gender equality has often remained superficial or incomplete. The Platform for Action explicitly recognizes that women and girls with disabilities face multiple forms of discrimination and acknowledges the need for targeted actions to ensure their full inclusion in society. However, the implementation of these commitments has been inconsistent, and in many structural barriers remain in place. A decade after Beijing, the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities has enshrined a human right-based approach to disability, grounded in the principles of autonomy, non-discrimination, accessibility, and full participation in society. The CRPD provides instrumental guidance for the implementation of the commitment of the Beijing Declaration. Article 6 of the CRPD specially addresses women with disabilities, mandating the states to take measures to ensure their full development, advancement, and empowerment. My report underscores the need for an approach that mainstreams disability rights into gender equality policies, while also developing targeted measures to address the unique barriers faced by this group. In reviewing the implementation of the Beijing Declaration, the report identifies several areas requiring urgent attention. Many women with disabilities continue to be denied legal capacity, facing guardianship regimes that strip them of decision-making power. States must align national legislation with the Convention and establish support mechanisms that uphold their autonomy and dignity. Women and girls with disability also remain underrepresented in education and employment. Access to inclusive, quality education and decent work opportunities must be prioritized to ensure their economic independence and empowerment. Further, women and girls, particularly mothers, including those with disabilities, provide a disproportionate share of care and support to children with disability throughout their lives. The need for comprehensive care and support systems that are gender responsive and disability inclusive to better support this group of women is also something highlighted in my report. Women and girls with disabilities are at a heightened risk of violence and abuse, including forced sterilization, sexual exploitation, and domestic violence. The report calls for the adoption of robust legal frameworks, accessible reporting mechanisms, and survivor-centered support services. Further, many women with disabilities continue to face barriers in accessing health care, particularly in the area of reproductive health services. As I mentioned in my report, ensuring accessible health care services and informed consent is fundamental to the rights and dignity. Women with disabilities remain largely excluded from political and public life. Their meaningful participation in decision-making processes, including within gender equality frameworks, is essential to ensuring policies that reflect their lived realities and experiences. Women and girls with disabilities are disproportionately affected in situations of conflict and environmental disasters. The report highlights the need for disability-inclusive and gender-sensitive humanitarian response strategies that ensure protection, accessibility, and participation as required under Article 11 of the CRPD. Distinguished delegates, the 30 years review and appraisal of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action offers a unique opportunity to reaffirm and strengthen our commitment to gender equality for all women, including those with disabilities. This requires not only policy adjustment, but a fundamental shift in approach, moving beyond patronizing narratives and the medical model for disability, often reflected in the platform, to affirm human rights model that respect and foster the agency, leadership, and contribution of women and disabilities in societies. Excellencies, distinguished guests, and delegates, let me now turn to the report of my visit to Kyrgyzstan from 23rd September to 3rd of October 2024. I would like to thank the Kyrgyz government for the positive cooperation and excellent interactive in having the opportunity that I received for the visit. 5 years after ratification of the CRPD, Kyrgyzstan is in a good position to tangibly improve the lives of persons with disabilities in line with a human right-based approach. Several combined factors make me optimistic that with political will and technical expertise, particular change can be achieved. I was particularly pleased by recent legal and political changes, as well as the establishment of a consultative council for persons with disabilities. The opportunity for progress requires a coherent and comprehensive approach to implement the Convention, including clear and effective independent monitoring mechanisms. I particularly suggest that a new law on the rights of persons with disabilities be developed in close consultation with persons with disability and their representing organization to cover all the rights under the Convention. The key challenges will be to shift from the still deeply entrenched medical model of disability towards embracing diversity, enforcing non-discrimination, and protecting the autonomy of persons with disabilities. Reform in terms of deinstitutionalization and legal capacity will be particularly needed in this respect. My report contains and action-oriented recommendations, which I hope will be useful to advance the rights of persons with disabilities in Kyrgyzstan and can also provide advice for countries on a similar path, to reiterate my readiness to continue engaging with the government of Kyrgyzstan to follow up on the visit and provide expertise to implement my recommendation. I thank you and looking forward to our continued dialogue and collaboration.